Hi, welcome back to the Leading Women series. I'm Space News correspondent Debra Werner, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Theresa Condor, Spire Global Chief Operating Officer. Hello, Theresa.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Um, I wanted to start by asking you why space-based Earth observation matters.
Yeah, I think Earth observation absolutely matters because it's a key part of the solution to a lot of the big global challenges that the world is facing today. And when I talk about Earth observation, I'm lumping in there satellite remote sensing as well, which sometimes people don't think of quite as much as Earth observation, but actually is. And I think there are very few areas that I can think of that impact just about any industry that you can think of on the planet, which is what makes it exciting and impactful. So, to just give one example that I'm more familiar with, when you want to talk about weather data for enhanced prediction of extreme weather events, for example, you're going to be impacting industries as varied as global logistics, as agriculture, as energy. And that's just a very tiny portion of the overall Earth observation market. When it comes to big trends that are shaping the world today, if you think about climate and sustainability, if you think about AI, digitalization, global security, these are the things that everybody's talking about, everybody is interested in. And Earth observation and remote sensing data are pretty much crucial to all of those things. And this is what makes it exciting to be in this industry right now too.
I agree. Um, You mentioned weather, and a decade ago, I thought of Spire as a weather startup, as that was the focus. Was that accurate, and is that accurate now?
So it's definitely true that the collection of weather data sets to be used in improved weather forecasting was one of the very beginning things that we did at Spire. It's also true that maritime and maritime data sets was also something that we did from the very first days of Spire. And so that multi-purpose idea behind our constellation has been there from the beginning and is still there today. And both of those things around weather data and weather prediction and maritime continue to be important and things that we believe in. I think what has changed is that over the intervening years now, our technology has improved. It's been proven out for now, 13 years that we've been around doing this. And so we can then start to leverage that platform and that experience and those technologies into new areas. So one great example of that is what we're now doing related to radio frequency geolocation, where we're taking technologies that we in fact use for weather data collection and can then operate it and process it in a different way to serve a very different market need, have a very different type of impact. And so I think that just demonstrates the power of how you can grow over time and the flywheel effect that can be created.
Yes. Is space as a service also an important part of Spire's business?
Space as a service is an important part of Spire's business. I think, as I already mentioned, we've been designing, manufacturing, launching satellites now for something like 13 years. I think we've done over 175 satellites, and also, very importantly, operating that constellation, focusing on customer delivery for real world applications. So I think we've really proven out that technology side. Now, space as a service is quite a new business model for the industry. I think we were, also playing a pretty instrumental role in testing that out and, taking part of that within the industry. And so where we're really maturing is in the types of customers and partners that we work with, really looking at where there are ambitious projects, where the funding and resources are there, the commitments are there, that really are going to have big impact.
I've also noticed Spire leaning into on-orbit AI processing. Why is that?
So the processing on orbit in general has always been something that is pretty important for Spire and that we've spent time on. A lot of that is because we believe in the less you need to download, this, the smaller data pipeline that you need, the ability to get that information faster to where it needs to go, really makes sense to do the on-orbit processing. So a lot of that is around how do you get something that is most usable to the customer in the fastest period of time. So we're already doing and experimenting with that. And so as AI technology has improved, it's a natural progression that we also start moving from, processing stuff on orbit to doing more AI processing on orbit.
Okay. Your career has taken some interesting turns from microfinance, excuse me, to becoming a Citigroup vice president to managing Spire's global operations. What prompted you to make those career moves?
Yeah, it sounds very random on the face of it, but I think all of it is driven by the things that you can learn along the way with each of those moves, and the ability to see the parallels across each of those types of jobs. So I think the story actually does make a lot of sense once you tell it. So when I was in Bangladesh, I was doing, as you said, a lot around microfinance, around global trade, export promotion, really focused on work with institutions, non-governmental institutions, and that was super interesting. I learned a lot. It was an amazing experience. And when I went to Citibank, then after graduate school, it sounds completely different. However, what I was doing at Citibank in particular was again related to trade finance, emerging markets, but from the other perspective of one of the banks funding that. And I was doing that through the global financial crisis that was hitting, kind of end of 2008 going forward. So it was a super interesting time to be involved in that. It was, global trade numbers had dropped at that period of time. And I learned so much from a different perspective, and with the professionalism of a place like Citibank, the way that they push you, the things that they teach you, the type of customers that you can interact with, the learning of that was just incredible, and I think has been important in shaping me as a professional. I had great mentors and people that I learned from while I was there. And then when it comes to Spire, as I mentioned, maritime was one of the very first things that we were doing, the first type of payloads we were putting up on the satellite. And so when you think about the types of visibility into global trade patterns, and how do you manage those risks that all the customers and the banks like Citibank were looking at, and then the type of data that we could provide through the Spire constellation, you actually have a really nice crossover of the type of problems you're trying to solve, the type of customers that you work with. You're just coming at it again from a different perspective of industry. And so it actually makes a lot of sense. This idea of global trade has kind of threaded through it. And then, of course, now it's been the 13 or something years at Spire. And of course, then it keeps evolving from there. And then, learning much more about other things related to the space sector that I didn't know at the time when I came from Citi.
Yeah, that's an interesting path, and I do see the links. I do see the thread that goes through it all. What in recent years, the space sector has attracted more women and people of color. Do you think that matters?
I think having diversity and having more people from more backgrounds and more perspectives is always going to be a good thing. I think, as probably you know better than me, the space industry, I mean, it's still one of those places where many people, everybody knows, everybody knows everybody, and you feel like it's all the same people talking, and that is starting to expand and change. And so you want people coming in again with different perspectives, having come from different industries, having been closer to the customer base, having very specific industry knowledge, very specific functional knowledge, and yes, very different types of backgrounds and way of working. And I think that that can only be something that is positive, because at the end of the day, space is more and more touching everything. We talked about all these kind of big trends and problems that, space is, I think, helping to solve. And so you also want more people and, the best people engaging in this. And you only get that if you're attracting, as many people as possible.
Yes, I do hear people talking about needs to hire all the time.
That's
Pitch.
that's a constant refrain and constant problem. And I'm kind of involved in what is going on in multiple different countries where we have locations, and that's the refrain everywhere: is talent, talent. How do we get more people involved? How do we attract more people? How do we get more people experienced? So there's
Yeah,
definitely there's room for everyone here to get involved.
yeah. What advice do you offer people entering the field who may not think that they fit? They may have a stereotype in their head of who works in the space sector and may not think they fit that, but are interested.
Well, I would say maybe start with watching the whole series of these profiles that you are doing to dispel the notion that there's only one type of person that does this. And I think it is, come in, talk to people. I think that always helps. You have to talk to people and hear their stories and realize that the sector is changing, and there are more and more types of people that are coming into the space sector who also are not even engineers, as I am not an engineer. And so the types of skill sets that are needed as this industry grows are getting to be quite broad. And so it's about, build your network. It's about, don't be afraid to ask questions. This is, I think, what I always tell people, because you learn so much when you're not afraid to ask the questions, and be confident in where you are and what you're learning and where you're going. Because I certainly remember when I started and I would have meetings and interactions with people that are engineers, PhDs, have been in the sector for many, many years. I would initially feel like, oh, I don't know the technology that well, or maybe I should take someone else with me. And I learned very quickly that many people, no matter how educated, how long they've been in the sector, they know a certain sliver of what they do. And so there's always something that you bring to the table. I mean, and you have to be prepared, right? You have to do the work. But it's no one is that amazing or that special that you have to be afraid of them.
Yeah. And I've noticed people have been quite welcoming to those questions.
I think so. And I mean, the whole industry is very dynamic right now. So it's a great time for people to be, interested and looking and, being part of it.
Yeah. That's great. You've covered my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I didn't know I would get the opportunity for that. No, I think just thank you again for the opportunity. And as you go through this series and are, contributing to this, diversity, trying to attract more people, let them know that any type of background, can be successful in the space industry. I would say, let me know if there's anything I can do to support or help in that.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
And thank you. You too.